We're back with the Atomsplit Rockin' and Drawing podcast. I'm G808.
I'm DJ.
And today we're talking about albums versus singles.
Yes, sirree. While drawing page 139.
Yeah, and I'm doing something that I haven't ever done on the video podcast before, which is vector illustrating.
Oh, right. So we pretty much got our start with vector back in 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, what I had done...
That was your specialty.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, okay.
I'm still pretty good at it.
Good to know.
What happened was, I started off with like actual pen and ink, and then I got into vectors because they were because they're easier for me to do. Well, it's easy now with like the drawing tools they have now, but back then it was easier for me to do these ruled perspective lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, I started doing everything in vector. And then I went back and started doing drawing again, but drawing digitally.
Right.
So now I kind of use a combination of vector and digital.
Yep. I think that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good mix. All right. So what do you prefer, albums or singles? Start off with that. Or do you care?
I think I like albums better.
Yeah.
Because it kind of a lot of it depends on where I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But most of the time, like, I listen to music while I like read the internet or something.
Right.
And I don't want to be like, I don't want to have to change to another song. I just like hearing a bunch of songs in a row.
From the same artist.
Yeah.
In a consistent... I could see that.
And,
Huh? Go ahead. Sorry.
So it's easier to... I don't know if it's easier, but it's, I don't know, I just like listening to an album and not having to stop what I'm doing and change the track.
Well, what about playlist?
Well, that's what
I hadn't thought about that.
That's it.
Or you're heading down that road.
Yeah, because like if I'm listening to whatever, like all right. So I was listening to the new Taylor Swift. She, I don't think, put out a single before she just put out this whole new album. And it was nice just to listen to an album. This is what I like to listen to an album. If I like the song, then I'll put it in that artist playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And for the mobile app, to me, and I'm talking about Spotify,
mm-hmm.
is so hard to deal with as far as like
Mm-hmm.
adding songs to playlists, because you can find a song. I mean, you can find a playlist that you want to add it to.
Mm-hmm.
If you used it recently, they put it on top.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't used it recently, it might be, because I alphabetized my playlist because they were hard to find. And it might be where it's supposed to be, but it's probably not.
Yeah.
You still have to look for it. And this is, I'm talking about the phone app.
Yeah,
so,
I use that.
So instead of, it's a lot easier to do it on the desktop app because everything stays, where you...
It's a bigger interface.
Yeah, it's a bigger interface, and they don't move... I mean, I guess it's, like, convenient at the time to move the playlist that you're adding songs to the top, but that doesn't mean you need to mess around with the other playlists and put them out of
Mm-hmm.
order so they're hard to find.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when it's like that, it's it's hard to find, and then in some cases I'd be like, well, I'd rather just not deal with the adding songs to the playlist and listen to singles that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
So I could, it goes both ways.
Um,
It all depends. It really depends on what I'm doing and what version of Spotify I'm using.
all right.
And now, if you use Spotify on like a TV, you don't have any of that functionality.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, they're all about singles and pre-made playlists on the TV Spotify.
Mm-hmm. I haven't used that. That's a good point. Um, well, they supposedly fans of rock, metal, jazz, and classical just prefer albums over singles, and I think you and I kind of fall into that category.
Yeah,
So maybe that's why, before we got into the playlist, you said you like to listen to the whole thing.
yeah. And,
Um, so as a new or indie artist, I think it matters, unfortunately,
it
because
matters.
it's a lot easier to put out a single when you don't have a budget or you're trying to get exposure than put out spend months recording a CD or an album. So supposedly, if you're indie, upcoming, even if you're rock or alternative, single's the way to go. Um, but I battle that with, is it artistically satisfying as an independent, artist to just put out a single? I guess so. But there's something to be said about recording 8 or 10 songs together at the same time, or, writing and recording them. So
Yeah.
it just takes forever. So
Yeah.
would you agree
Um.
it's a good strategy for indie artists to do singles? Maybe then combine them into EPs?
Yeah, I think that's like what a lot of people do is they make singles and then later on they'll combine them into an album anyway.
Yeah,
Um, so at that point, then I'm like, I'd love to have. I just like to listen to a whole bunch of this and not, one at a time,
yeah,
waiting for the whole thing, and then
yeah,
listen to it again. Which is, sometimes I do that if I
yeah.
really like a band, like one band I like called the Naked and Famous put out a bunch of singles, like 3 or 4, and then the whole album came out. So I just re-listened to those songs.
How much time was in between the singles?
I think like
Like,
a week, like
really?
a
Okay.
month of singles. And
Well, they had those done then.
well, I
Yeah,
don't. I mean, I don't know, because um, sometimes like my favorite, like some bands I like will put out singles, and that'll be it for a while, and you won't know. Um, you won't know if they'll ever put out an album, but they'll just keep putting out singles.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Supposedly it all comes down to music consumption as an artist, recording artist or performing artist. So whatever you can get the most consumption out of, whether it's streaming one track for 1,000 times. I mean, roughly 1,500 streams equals $10, whereas one album download of 10 tracks equals $10. So it's like, It's actually kind of easier to sell one album, but it takes forever to record it.
And not only that,
Hmm.
it takes forever and out of sight, out of mind,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which
So
which
I
is
don't know.
hard to not take into consideration these days.
Right.
Because
I mean, vying for the fans is the most important thing, and if you're off the radar, but on the other hand, you don't want to saturate it too much, so
right,
you got to leave a little space in there.
yeah, you don't want to Well, I mean, like if somebody like Diplo puts out singles either under his name or another pseudonym almost every week, like
Yeah.
maybe almost every few days.
Well, last year, my plan was to have an EP of 4 songs, and I didn't get my ass together and finish it. I only finished one song, which I used as the Halloween single. So there's still 3 songs that they're 90% done that could be finished and then released as singles or made into an EP.
Or both.
So or both, yeah.
I mean, because there's nothing um, bad about putting out singles and keeping people interested till you put out the real thing.
So what about like I mean, history wise, singles were the thing when like in the early 60s, 50s, you know,
Well,
really before the Beatles, before they put all their singles. They were I think
wait,
one of the first
let's
ones to put all their singles on an album.
yeah, but let's before that though, let's go back to did you get that did you get that thing I sent you? The thing D
Oh,
Snyder
what did you say?
D Snyder and uh let's see. Sebastian Bach and David Crosby. So
Was that an email
a
or a text?
text. You didn't get that. But basically what happened was the CEO of Spotify came out and said artists need to churn out new material at a faster pace. And basically what he's saying is Eck insinuated that the traditional model of releasing music when artists would take years between albums was no longer sustainable in the streaming era.
Hmm.
Some artists that used to do well in the past may not do well in the future landscape. You can't record music once every 3 or 4 years and think that's going to be enough. So D. Snyder took issue with that, and he said the amount of artists rich enough to withstand this loss. Oh wait. Okay. While you, the listener, benefit and enjoy Spotify, it's part of what's killing a major income stream for the artist creators. The amount of artists rich enough, quote unquote, to withstand the loss are about 0.0001%.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel X solution is for us to write and record more on our dime, and then some unexplicatives
Right.
after that. Then Mike Mills from RAM, famous Georgia band.
Yep.
Music equals product and must be churned out regularly before telling the Spotify C. Oh wait. Um, music equals product and must be churned out regularly. So that was his take on it. And then David Crosby uh, called let's just say he called him greedy and leave it
Okay.
at that. He had some expletives too.
Yeah.
So so these guys, and to be honest, I mean even Mike Mills, old schoolers,
Yep.
old time rockers.
Right. So that was that
Yeah,
perspective.
they're used to taking 3 or 4 years to make a record, but but
Mm-hmm.
and so to them that's the way it's always been done and it always should be done.
But times have
No, no,
changed.
no. Times haven't changed. Because let's go back to what you were saying before. Singles were popular when in the
Mm.
60s, 70s,
Well, I think 50s,
50s. That's exact.
50s, 60s.
That's my point
Yeah.
because okay, so if you take Johnny Cat,
Rock around the clock and stuff like
yeah,
that.
John. If you take like Johnny Cash, Elvis, um, Jerry Lee Lewis, Buddy Holly,
Yep.
they go in even Hank Williams, they go in to a studio on the fly record 2 songs and then put that album out, a two-sided 45 or whatever the small ones are.
Single.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7 inch. Yeah. And that's what goes in, went into the
Yeah.
jukeboxes.
So that's how things were done before they changed.
But today, Spotify's like the jukebox
Yeah.
of
So
modern age. God, that's a great
yeah.
thing.
So what I'm getting at is the way things were done is how they're being done again. And Dee Snyder,
Before album oriented rock of the
yeah,
70s.
and Dee Snyder and Sebastian Bach and Mike Mills and David Crosby are like not down with that.
Right.
That's not what they're used to.
Right. Right. Because they're kind of old
Yeah.
school. And I can understand that. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean everybody hates change. Even if it's good for them.
yeah.
So, it's hard to get people to change, but this isn't really a change. This is a replay of
It's a circle
yeah, it's a
back. Yeah.
circle, and it's not just those guys in the 50s. It goes all the way back to the 20s and 30s when you just had
It's a 78 speed. Big, giant, thick vinyl ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
when there was Alan Lomax worked for the Smithsonian, I think, or at least is part of the Smithsonian collection now. But he would go down to the Mississippi Delta and record people like Sunhouse and Muddy Waters and just anybody on the fly, right there, record them, and then release that album.
Yep. Get it on the radio. Get it in the
Yeah,
stores. Yeah.
and that was part of like a Smithsonian. Well, his main thing was to preserve American music or
Mm-hmm.
cultural cultural music. But the point is like you could in one day record 2 or 3 songs and then get it published.
Yeah.
That's old, but now it's new again.
Right.
So
So singles is where we're netting out
yeah.
here. Unless you're a super big old band.
Well, I mean there's
Even
nothing
then.
wrong with because this is what people used to do too. There's nothing wrong with making a few singles and then putting those singles together into an album.
But coming from their point of view, from an album point of view, you can do those deep cuts, the B-sides that don't have to be hit songs. I
Mm.
think that's why they enjoy doing an album. And those don't count as singles. So you got to have that time to, if you want to do those deeper cuts that are slower, weirder, have different vocals and lyrics. Because there's artistic merit to
Oh
that, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So, although I could be wrong, you could release what would have previously been a deep cut B side as A side these days. I don't know.
Some things get popular when they're not supposed to get popular.
Right, just by virtue of them being different. Yeah, man.
But I mean, that's still I would still say like these days, just make if you were gonna make a 12 song album, 12 singles. That's gonna be your
Yeah,
money songs, and then when you do the EP, you can have something else.
the
Yeah,
ballads, power
power
ballad.
ballads.
Of course, those were hits back in the day. But well, okay, there you go.
So I think the single is here to stay. I mean,
I do too.
majority. Well, the single has always been there, but now the majority or the most important thing is the
Yeah.
single.
All right. You heard it here, not first, but somewhere along the line. All right. What's next? What are we doing time wise? Okay. Um, what are you drawing there? A
No,
filing
it's a
cabinet?
table. It's it's one of those weird
Ah,
tables they have at uh State Farm. It doesn't have legs, but it just has a square.
like the that.
So it's not really working
Gotcha.
too well because um Vector doesn't like being recorded, I guess.
Ah, okay.
So we'll probably just get back to the normal old drawing next time for sure.
Freestyle. Yeah, okay. All right.
But we've now we've done this. We've done everything that I do about making a comic except the lettering, which
Ah,
I don't know if I could do and taught, but I'd like to try.
yeah, we could try that.
All right, so you got a song?
Um, I got an ancient recording of my Tampa band Roma today practicing the church's Reptile
Okay.
in rehearsal, and we performed it live a few times after that, which I probably have somewhere. But do you know that
No.
song? You probably. It's got a nice um, delay riff. And this nice guitar that comes over it, really low vocals. This is like one of my favorite songs. One of my top 10 favorite songs, probably. From what year did that come out? 87 or 8 or something? This was on the album that had Under the Milky Way.
Okay.
This was like another single, speaking of singles. And you probably know Under the Milky Way. So this is me, Colby, my brother, who was in Atomsplit Mark 1, Darren on guitar, and Max on drums. I cannot remember what I played, if I played the riff or the melodic part over it. So here you go. It's 5 minutes, so you can get a lot done in that time. All right.
Come on, man. Completely silent. Come on. No, somewhere in between there.
We're
I'm
back.
back.
Looking good. Looked like you drew some kiosk there during the
Yeah.
tune or
Got
something.
some lighting.
All right. Okay. Someone coughed in the background.
Somewhat.
Somebody just coughed in the background. That mic is really good on your
Oh,
headset.
okay. Yeah, my wife she won't stop making noises.
Okay, well, that's singles versus albums. And page 139. And we didn't do an ad. We'll do an ad next
Do we
time.
have anything that for an ad to?
No, we don't. The ad crew's out there trying to sell ads right now.
What ad crew? Oh.
Some teenagers I recruited.
Street team.
We need something to-
Okay.
Yeah, the street team. I don't know if you ever worked on a yearbook staff, but I did for a lot of my high school, and you always had to go sell ads. It was
Really?
horrible. Yeah, everybody had to sell ads to like the local businesses. So I would just get my dad to buy a full page ad or my
Hold on.
grandparents.
Boo. Does your yearbook have to sell ads? Who does that? Well, there you go.
Yeah, it still
Yeah.
continues to today.
I wonder who. I guess I'll check it out. See who advertises.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Pay
I should
attention.
advertise.
Yeah. Oh man, we could put an Atomsplit ad in there. Actually, it's not a bad idea. In fact, one of my cop-outs was buying an ad for my band at the time. So I bought a full-page ad of my spandex band. Oh, it's horrible. We're all posing and shit. I got to get that out. My contacts are ready. And show that one episode here.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
God.
Because we did a whole comic about that.
Yeah. Right about that. Well, okay.
All right. So that's it. Singles versus things will never be the same, or things will be exactly like they were.
Exactly. Things are exactly like the same that they were.
Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right.
Until next time.
Talking to you. And
I'm DJD.
G808. Wait, and I'm G808. And this was the Atomsplit Rockin' and Drawing Podcast.